Okay, just a heads up, I'm going to be playing FTL in the background for most of this video because it's pretty long and there isn't a lot of great visuals and deadlines. So I'm still going to cut to the important stuff when it comes up, but the game in the background is FTL. Welcome to Talking About Games. I am Pascal and I talk about games. Well, I normally do. This week I'm doing something different. This week is a follow-up episode to my video that I did last week. If you want to go watch it, go ahead. I think it provides some good context for my perspective on this. Anyways, last week I talked about how I'm not super happy about the state of pre-orders and publishers in the games industry. But this week I want to talk a little bit more about that role in particular, and the relationship that publishers have with consumers. Now, just to be clear guys, I am just a person with a mic. I don't have any special knowledge about the games industry, I just play games. What is a publisher? This is a bit of a trick question because I'm sure you've immediately jumped to an answer. And that's true. A lot of you probably do have a fairly good idea of what a publisher does, and you certainly have examples of them that you can come up with on the spot. But I find it's a little bit trickier to actually describe what it is that a publisher does. So here's my explanation. A publisher is a company that hires a game studio to make them a video game, and then they market and distribute it. The key here is that it's a work-for-hire system. The publishers pay the game studios salaries for a few years to make the game, and then they get to own the finished product. This seems like a fairly decent system, because this way developers don't need to have a lot of money up front, and people who want to invest in the games industry have a clear way of doing that. In theory, publishers are a good force in the games industry. Because games are really expensive, they take big teams working for several years to deliver a finished product. And this costs a lot of money, and so publishers are really useful for investing that money, and their goal is obviously to get money out of it. But it's good to have them coming into the industry. I mean, there are many games out there that simply would not exist if it weren't for publishers. Because publishers allow for big games. Bayonetta 2 would not exist if it hadn't been picked up by Nintendo and financed. That's just one example. There's plenty of others. Most games have a publisher. It's only in, the last few years really that self-publishing has become a viable option for a lot of people. The publishers are the ones who front the money to make the consoles. Now, there's also a problem with publishers, because publishers want a return on their investment, because as I've said, games are expensive. And as a publisher, you're putting in a lot of money over a long period of time, and you need to get something back from it. A publishing group does not want to be out several $1 million and not get anything in return. That would be about the worst thing that could happen for them. As a result, publishers tend to be pretty risk-averse, it's not great. To have a vibrant creative industry, you need to be able to take risks. But I don't think that's a huge issue, and we are overcoming it with self-publishing. Because we've got the indie scene to take risks, and to make our weird, wonderful, out-of-nowhere smash hits. That is under control right now. But it's good that we get those in the industry in the first place. But I think the bigger problem with publishers is that their goals don't align with those of the consumers, because as consumers, we want to play good games. We want good games, that's the goal. Consumers are willing to take risks to get good games. This has been proven through crowdfunding again and again. Broken Age, Shadowrun, that kitten card game, I don't remember what it was called. A lot of games have been crowdfunded, and some of those have been really good. Publishers are averse to taking risks, and consumers are willing to take risks. Publishers are finding ways to shift the risk onto the consumer, and they do this using pre-order schemes, and it seems like now they're setting their sights on crowdfunding. Before you say that I'm overreacting on this, let me just say that publishers are already trying to see how much they can get away with. Because Ubisoft is trying to sell pre-orders for movie tickets. And if that isn't an escalation, I don't know what is. Look guys, it's not a good situation we're in. But anyways, what I really want to do is use Shenmue 3 as kind of an example of... Oh, by the way, we're going to be talking about Shenmue 3. As an example for how this publisher-consumer relationship gets very weird when we have crowdfunding in the middle of things. The more I looked into this, the worse it seemed to me. So, just a little bit of context. I haven't played Shenmue 2, though it seems like the kind of game I would enjoy. But as far as I can tell, it was a fantasy-ish RPG set in the real world. And Shenmue 3 picks up from the story where it gets left off. Shenmue 2 was apparently a commercial failure, but I couldn't find anything concrete to back this up. I'm going to run a short clip now from the trailer of the Kickstarter page and just talk about exactly why I find this very disturbing.
Shenmue 3 will be the story you have waited for, but this Kickstarter will be real success when you choose to make it. The full-on Shenmue experience you have dreamed of. The fate of Shenmue is in your hands now.
Yeah, so I don't like how he talks directly to the audience, how he talks about the Kickstarter like it's already a success. He takes the responsibility for the success of the game, and he tells the audience directly, looking at the camera and pointing at them, that it is up to them, that how good Shenmue 3 is going to be depends on how much money he gets. That is a really, really dangerous statement to be making, and I know that it's just marketing. I know that, but it still creeps me out, because you shouldn't be saying things like that. I don't care how desperate you are for money, you should not be putting the quality of your work on to other people. And when you compound this with the statement that he made in a Reddit Ask Me Anything, where he said that he would need at least $10 million to get the full Shenmue experience. I'm just speculating here, but it feels to me like Yu Suzuki really wanted to make a Shenmue 3 game. And that the amount of money he gets isn't so important. It's not about delivering the product for him, it's about making the game, because that's the part he's involved in. Remember, the original Kickstarter goal was $2 million. At least, that's my take on it. But getting back to the publishers, it was revealed a little bit into the campaign that Sony and Shibuya Productions would somehow be involved with the making and financing of Shenmue 3. Cedric Biscay clarified Sony's involvement in the Kickstarter by saying that Sony will not get any money from the KS Kickstarter. They will help finance the PS4 version and also help for advertisement. Okay, the fact that he thought that he needed to specify that Sony wasn't getting money from the Kickstarter seems very weird to me, because there's no way that people think that Sony is getting money from the Kickstarter to finance Shenmue 3. That is just straight up lying to us, and I don't think anyone really expected that from Yu Suzuki. The fact that he explained that seems weird to me. The important part is the second part, that Sony's helping to finance the PS4 version and also helping for advertisement. Now, this sounds similar to that definition we had way back in the beginning of the episode when we were talking about what it is that a publisher does. A publisher finances the game's development and also advertises the game and distributes it. Distribution isn't so much a factor anymore, so it's really just advertisement and development. I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't know how much money it costs to finance the PS4 version, but I don't know what that means. I assume that it means they're going to be porting the PC version to PS4, but that statement doesn't really make that clear. And we don't know at all how Shibuya Productions factors into this. This is the big problem that I have with crowdfunding, because there is no accountability for the developer or the publisher. Yu Suzuki and the companies involved do not owe the people who paid almost $7 million for the game any kind of explanation on what's happening with the money, where the money's going, how long it's going to take, what development is involved, how the money is being spent. They don't have any accountability there. And so it's very easy for a publisher or a developer to just ask for money and then take it, and then we don't really know what happens from there. And I am not saying that anything unethical is going on, but it's a very risky situation to be putting yourself in. Normally, the justification for crowdfunding is that this game will not be made if it's not going to be financed. But when you have a publisher backing the game and throwing in their support, it seems like the game could have been made anyways. I mean, if Shenmue 3 was going to be backed by Sony, clearly they think it's going to be a success and it's going to make its money back. Clearly having the most successful video game Kickstarter ever shows its potential to succeed. The question is raised, why isn't this game just being developed normally? And the inescapable conclusion is that it's because it's less risky for them to crowdfund the game. Crowdfunding is sketchy when publishers get involved. I think that's fairly clear. Consumers need to find out where the limit is on the risks they're willing to take and on the bad things they're willing to deal with in order to get good games. And the sooner we figure that out, the better it's going to be for everyone. Next week, I will be talking about something fun. I haven't decided. It'll be a surprise.